Hello, everyone, and welcome to the
Wait,
Dive.
pause. I want to sit as if I'm looking at you. So let me fix my.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Diabetes Empowerment Summit. I am your co-host, Kiana Drew, and I am excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Shockley, and she is an OG in the game. That's what I like to call her. She has been advocating for diabetes for some time now in the online space. And I'm excited to bring her story to you and also share some of the things that she is up to today. Hi, Cherise.
Hello, Kiki. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing well. Blessed, can't complain. Still have job, family's doing well as we can possibly be. So we're good. How are you doing? Also, I just want to say that I am honored to be here. Danielle has been trying to get me on here for quite some time. So you finally reined me in. So thank you so much for being persistent.
Yes, yes, we wanted to have you on and just share, what you're up to today, because your specialty is DISMA. You are the creator of Diabetes Social Media Advocacy. Is that right?
That is correct. So back in 2010, I created DSMA, which is Diabetes Social Media Advocacy. It is a weekly Twitter chat that happens every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the hashtag is #DSMA.
Yes. I need to get on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I hear that I know. Because I found out about you on Instagram, not Twitter per se.
Twitter so Instagram is great, right? But Twitter is unfiltered conversation. You get what that person's feeling at that moment. I highly recommend, even if you do not become active on it, I highly recommend that you at least lurk and see what's going on, because like I said, that's where the magic happens.
Right. I actually do have a Twitter account. I don't live on Twitter. I think there's just so many social media accounts. You figure out which one you're going to maybe put more into or share more, of your life or story or anything on. But
I'll say, so one thing before we get started, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. It's good to have something in each platform, because if one went away, you want to be able to pick up where that left off. So it should be a steady stream of conversation on all platforms.
see, I don't know that. And that's your specialty though. Diabetes, social media, online community. So you know about all of this. But that's a gem. So anyone out there, don't just stay on one platform. Make sure you have your foot in every little one. That's true. That makes a lot of sense. You're also a wife, a mother, and a veteran. I didn't know you were a veteran.
You didn't? So it's funny because there's a lot that people don't know about me, because I was diagnosed at 23. And then when I found the online space, I was 20, shoot, my daughter was 2. So I was 25 when I found the online space. So it's, so you're getting me at 25, being a mother, and having my husband, who at the time was preparing to go to Iraq again. So I actually got out. I was in the Army Reserves. I was a sergeant. I got out, which was actually a blessing in disguise, because when I was diagnosed, it was a month after I got out. And I got out because my husband was on his way. Well, my husband was in Iraq, and I don't want to be 2 years not seeing my husband, because we had just got married. So it's like, and the odds of us ending up in the same location is very slim. And had I stayed in, I would have been diagnosed in Iraq, and I would have been misdiagnosed Whereas being diagnosed in the States, I was diagnosed properly. So I didn't get misdiagnosed with with type 2. I knew from the get-go that I had LADA. So for me, which is latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, slow onset of type 1, have a working pancreas like a type 2, but I'm positive for antibodies like a type 1. So eventually what happens is those antibodies attacks the pancreas, and I will require insulin. So, and which is funny because I was diagnosed in 2003. I didn't go on insulin until 2007, except for the time that I was actually pregnant with my daughter, which there was no CGMs when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I was taking MPH and regular when I was pregnant because it was only going to be short time, so it didn't make sense to use anything else.
Right. Wow. I've interviewed a number of people who have been misdiagnosed. So first of all, that is just a blessing that you immediately got the correct diagnosis, because so many people are diagnosed type 2, and the way you were to manage type 2 is totally different than type 1. You already get frustrated. I mean, from the gate trying to manage type 1. I could only imagine the frustration that you have with trying to manage type 2, but you're misdiagnosed. Like nothing is working and you think it's you.
Well, it's crazy. And I think this is one of the reasons why I'm passionate about that type 2, about the type 2 community, and why it's important for me to always make sure that there's a voice speaking up for everybody with diabetes, because I would actually tell you that it's actually harder to live with type 2 diabetes. Those 3 years that I was not on insulin was probably the toughest, because I wasn't actually living with diabetes. Diabetes was living with me. I counted every single thing. I didn't have insulin, so every time my blood sugar went high, I had to go for a walk. I was like a robot because I didn't have insulin to help me. And so with type 1, at least you have an insulin pump, or you have insulin out the gate to where you can help and understand and manage it a lot easier. But I would honestly say type 2 is a lot harder. It's a lot harder because a lot of people don't understand type 1, but the medical community at that time, I was diagnosed, there was a lot of things that was up in the air. So for me, I'm very blessed that I had a nurse practitioner who wasn't on an ego trip that tried to diagnose me. Because what she said, Cherise, I don't know, I've never seen this before. You have that working pancreas and you have antibodies like a type 1. I've never seen this before. She said, and plus back then they were still calling it juvenile diabetes. She was like, you're over the age of 18. You are in perfect shape. So I don't know where type 2 comes in. Like, I don't understand it. So I'm going to send you to an endocrinologist and I'm going to let them figure it out. So I think sometimes it's having someone that says, I don't understand, a healthcare provider say, okay, I can't help you. I don't know what this is, to be able to give over that care to somebody that can help.
Right. That's a blessing that she did that, because some people just they don't get that out the gate. They don't get someone who wants to look a little bit further into the answer. They'll just go over with a blanket statement. Walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, guess it's a duck. Right? But
yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's funny because, especially living in this day and age that we're living in with COVID, right? It's, I am not looked at, right, as a person who understands and manages her diabetes well, or who understands the condition. If I go into a hospital with COVID, I'm looked at as a Black woman. It's everything else that I know goes out the window, because it's this right here. I can't hide being Black. But if I needed to, diabetes is as invisible as it possibly can be. So I think for me, I didn't want to take the conversation here, but I think it's probably good.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, like when I hear people, and I've said this several times, say that, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about COVID and type 1. And I was like, dude, I'm not worried about COVID and type 1 because my endocrinologist is awesome. And I know that he will work with the medical staff to make sure that I'm taken care of. Heck, I'm worried about being diagnosed with COVID and being Black more so than I am with type 1 diabetes and COVID. Like, to me, that's not a concern.
Right. Mm-hmm. I feel you there. Totally. I also don't have that. I don't have that fear of the type 1 and being type 1 and COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's similar. You're gonna get overlooked.
Yep.
Gonna get as much attention.
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, I'd like to segue that into the other platform that I want to say it's been 2 years. Has it been 2 years or almost 2 years that you created Women of Color?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's been that long?
I think so. I was just thinking about it. I think it was almost 2 years. So the Women of Color living with diabetes.
Oh my gosh, it was 2 years ago. It was April 2018. It sure was.
Time flies. Right. And it's been so many like women finding their tribe there. You showcase other women living with type 1.
I think for me, it's, I've always, since day one, I noticed that there weren't a lot of people of color in the online space, which is, I mean, it's of course because type 1 is more common right now that we know, because we don't want to think about the misdiagnosed, so that we know of, is predominantly white. So when I tumbled across this space, and then I started attending summits. I don't know if you've seen the picture that I put up on social media a few weeks ago, or a couple of days ago. No, it was last week, where, you know, if you look, I'm the only Black person, and there's only one Latinx person in that picture. Okay, about 25 people, I believe, could have been more. It was only, you can clearly see young Cherise Shockley, Black woman, and you could clearly see Manny Hernandez in that picture. So when I finished that summit, because Roche Diabetes Care was the first diabetes company that brought and had the idea to bring bloggers together back in 2009. So I attended the second one, which is 2010, and then the ones after. And then after that, Lilly started having them, Medtronic started having them, everybody started having these summits. And every time I would attend, I'm like, okay, we're doing better. I'm not the only one, but there's only 2 Black people now, 2 Hispanic people, and there's still 20 white people. Like, this does not represent the community. And then you only have like 3 people with type 2. Like, even though there's similar paths and there's a lot of similarities with type 1 and type 2, especially for those that are insulin dependent, it's still a totally different lifestyle for those who aren't insulin dependent. So shouldn't their voice matter too? So I think for me, that's when I was like, you know what? When I entered this space, I didn't want it to be about type 1. I didn't want it to be about type 2. I wanted to make sure that if anybody was touched by diabetes, that they found and they had support online. So I'm kind of like the connector. This is going to sound kind of stalkerish, but I probably know more people in the diabetes community and who they are than people know who I am. Because I think with Women of Color, it's not about me telling my story. It's about encouraging people, taking people in, finding them, wrapping them with my arms and saying, oh my gosh, I am so glad you found us. If you need anything, let me know. Women of color, it's not about Cherise Shockley's story. It's about the stories of women of color living with diabetes, golden people, black people, brown people. It's not about me. So I try to make it very clear that I like to be behind the scenes and make sure I elevate other people. It's because it's not about me.
Right. It's about giving people that, showcasing that they're not alone.
Yep.
And helping them find the resources to help them right where they're at.
Exactly. Because social media can be a pain in the butt, but I promise you, y'all, if you just take a break from it and come back to it, there's social good. I'm telling you, there's some good things happening in this space that if you allow the negative thoughts to seep into your brain and allow that to kind of take you away from finding support and finding your tribe or finding that one person or that community that you connect with, talk to me because we need to fix that.
I totally agree. When I walked into the online space, it really started with me just looking for other people like myself. And I was already on the quest to wanting to help people. That's why I decided to go to school and pursue a degree in nutrition. But then I started to notice that I don't see enough people of color. And this sounds weird and stalkerish, but yeah, you start trying to look for people who look like you or have a similar story as you, a similar background as to whether you were immediately diagnosed or you were misdiagnosed or it's gestational diabetes or, type 3, which is maybe, you had to have your pancreas removed or something of that sort. There are just so many different ways under the big umbrella of diabetes, right? So many different diagnoses. But looking for that one story that resonates with you. And that's why I came onto the space, looking for that connection.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm going to take Instagram, for instance, because right now, of course, that's the most popular platform. Well, TikTok is, but not there yet. But for me, when you look through diabetes, type 1 diabetes has over 1 million, has been hashtagged in a post over 1 million times. And I want you to think about this. When you scroll using that hashtag, it takes a good 5 minutes, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, about 4 to 6 scrolls till you find a person of color. Mm-hmm. Let that sink in. So somebody mentioned, Mike Hoskins from Diabetes Minds mentioned Google. When you Google it, you see nothing but white people. When you're in a platform where everybody lives right now, because it's the flavor of the month, and being diagnosed, even with type 2, because people with type 1 hashtag type 2. So when you go into this space, you're seeing thin white women who look like they photoshopped the image before they put it up, like they really made sure that they looked perfect for Instagram. And for me and most people with diabetes, they're not looking for that picture perfect person. They're looking for somebody, doesn't even matter what color you are. They're looking for somebody who's real and raw with a couple of glamour shots up. Ooh, I just dated myself. Did I just really say glamour shots? I did say glamour shots.
Get what those are.
Yeah.
Maybe what a glamour shot looks like. Maybe it's got better lighting now.
And those horrible backgrounds are right. So, but yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that if you're out there and you're watching this and you turned your back on social media, on Instagram, there are people out there and you can find them, but you just have to be patient And make sure when you're following people that you stand for, or you have some kind of knowledge of what that person is about, because it's just like referring somebody for a job. You're not going to refer somebody who's lazy, because that's a bad reflection on you. And sometimes who you follow is that same, you kind of get that same thing. It's like, okay, these people are following this person, and this person said that Black lives don't matter, so guess what? That's important to me, so I'm not going to follow this person. I know this is going to sound crazy too, because council culture is real, but I mute people instead of counsel them, because I want to see the world view. I don't want to see the picture perfect, only what I want to see view. So if people with diabetes are out there and their views have kind of shifted because all this is happening, I don't stop following them. I may mute them because I want to make sure that they have support, right? I am like that person that believes that no matter how they see the world and how they view people, that it's not up to me to judge. I believe that I was placed on this earth to be support and to help people with diabetes. So no matter what their views may be, I still want to be there. And it could also be the way that I was raised. And it's also military culture, right? You don't leave anybody behind. You can drag a racist person across and save their life. So in reality, the same thing. If there's somebody racist and they have diabetes, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to hate you because you hate me because of the way I look, because that puts me in the same position that you are in. And I don't want to be that way. I want to love everybody. And I know this sounds cliche, but I just believe in helping everybody. It's no matter what they believe, I want to make sure that they have support. And if they want to connect with somebody that has the same thoughts, I can connect them with that person as well. But I just can't let go of people like that. Like, I believe in people way too much to disconnect from them because their views are different, or because they're racist. Mm-hmm. Maybe, by following me, they can see that, everybody is not, Black people aren't bad, or diabetes isn't bad, or, you can manage diabetes, you can have access to what you can have. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm about to get sappy.
No, I agree with you. Similar to, I share those same views. I'm more so, I don't cancel people out the gate, when they say something that either upsets me or I don't agree with. I always try to, I put myself in that person's shoes, and I wouldn't say you give the person the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
What you do is say, okay, we just have two totally different views. I'm going to personally choose to inject love into this situation. Mm-hmm. Even if I don't understand it or will never agree.
Yep.
Because I feel like love is the only way to get through, to cut through hate, to mm-hmm. cut through anything, and to get to peace and unity, togetherness. And I feel like within this space, just like any space, especially with everything that's going on in the world, it's all about getting us to have one voice. If we're all divided, we're never going to get to the real issues, which is insulin for all. Everyone's getting the care or access to the care that they need as someone who's diagnosed with type 1 or type 2, wherever you are in the world. So, if we automatically cut people off who don't share the same views, or we're not ever going to bridge the gap. It's going to be forbidden. So we're going to have some people who are just going to shut up. But then there are people like us who are like, all right, I'm going to be the bridge. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to talk to you. We can still have a conversation. And it may take a conversation for 50 years, like civil rights, but we're going to get through. We're going to get some change. I believe we're going to get through. So
yeah, and then like you said, to piggyback off of what you just said, it's going to take a village to disrupt disparities. So we would be crazy, or people would be crazy to think that it's just about, reforming the police department or police brutality. But if you go back to the Tuskegee Airmen, you go back to Henrietta Lacks, and you look at those stories, and it's like, oh my gosh, like I see why Black people don't want to participate in clinical trials. Like, I understand that. However, I understand that we need to be represented in these clinical trials. So how can we make people of color feel comfortable with participating in clinical trials? And then the piggyback to that is, why isn't there access to these clinical trials in inner cities? And why aren't they available where people can take the bus? Because we know that if you participate in clinical trials, especially if it's something related to devices or insulin, you're going to get it for free. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't you want to have these trials in these locations so that you're including people of color, they're being taken care of for the length of the trial? Like, it's just so many things that doesn't add up. Like, we shouldn't be reading stories about this 26-year-old woman lived in New York, I believe. She died. She died giving birth to her baby. Like, the Black woman, we shouldn't be reading about that. This is 2020. Like, these are issues that, if you read stories about people being diagnosed with diabetes, Kylene, for instance, she was misdiagnosed because she was Black and not type 2, but they judged her based off of her appearance, right, and not based off of the symptoms. And if they would just stop doing that, it wouldn't be more diagnosed. Or if they invested in proactive care instead of reactive care, then it would just make sense. But that's another story. I could go on and on and on, but I just want to make sure that as a community, we truly understand that everybody's not created equally. And just because I've been blessed and fortunate, because my husband, like I said, was in the military, so I've had insurance. He stayed in because I had diabetes. And then now I'm covered because he retired. But everybody who's Black or brown do not share the same story. I do not speak for every Black person in this space or with diabetes. I can share my experiences and share what I've heard or seen to make sure that the voiceless have a voice. But this is where the key is. You're listening and you are a person of color. Share your story, please. Share your story. You have to. Because in order for us to change or shift the way people see this community, we need you, and we cannot do it alone.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Thank you so much, Cherise, for taking the time out of your day. And I want to personally thank you for being in this space. You've been an encouragement, you've been an inspiration, education, all of that. Like, just following you and seeing what you've been doing in this space in a short amount of time, because I've only really been on social media for a couple of years, maybe almost 3 years or so. And then finding out that you're like, oh, I started at the very beginning.
And I want to thank you and everybody that came in within the last 3 years, because I was at the point where I was tired of saying, knock, knock, let us in. And then when I ran across Ariel, Just a Little Sugar, you and other people, I was like, okay, maybe, maybe the time is now. Maybe this is, because if I would have launched Women of Color back in 2010 when I launched DSMA, it wouldn't have worked. Because no one was there for it in the first place. But I think that when you put in a certain climate that it causes you to react and act to different things. So you crave knowledge, you crave people that look like, you crave so many different things that you didn't realize that you needed in your life. And women of color with diabetes came in at that right time. And that was in 2018. So I want to thank you all for reigniting my fire when I got tired, and still saying, hey, I know you're tired. I know you're tired, but don't retire yet. Yeah. So I just want to thank you all, because I was doing it alone for a very long time. As a Black woman, I know that Manny Hernandez and a lot of other people, maybe 3 other people in that Latinx space, have been doing it for so long. So to see that we're not doing it alone anymore, it makes me want to tear up, because this is what I've been waiting for since I found the online space.
And this is what you've been working towards. So it's seeing that all that work did not go in vain, and you heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you basically paved the way for all of us. So we're that much closer to change.
Yes.
You're seeing it happen. So I could imagine, the emotions.
And a lot of people don't live to see change happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but this has been great, and I really appreciate you and Danielle for inviting me on and not giving up on me, because I've been wanting, like I said, to do this for years. So thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I liked it because it was all over the place like I am, so it was perfect. And you did such a good job interviewing. You should have a podcast or your own TV show or something.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I don't know, one day. Maybe, you speak it out. I'd love to. I've always, when I decided to go into the space, similar to your story, I was craving other stories. Not just those that resonated with me or similar to mine, just everyone's story. I feel like when you hear about someone else's struggle, that gives you that hope or that encouragement more so to keep pushing. And that's why it's so important for us to continue to share and create other platforms and other spaces, because there's so many of us out there. Sometimes we think, oh, you're on social media, and it almost makes the world feel smaller. And you're like, oh, they don't want to hear one more story. And it's like, no, because the way that you deliver it is going to touch the one person who needs to hear it in that way, or needs to see it in that way, So I agree, Cherise. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to check back in with you as well.
Okay. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Of course. Let people know where they can find you. So
you can do #WOC diabetes and #DSMA on Twitter. And if you hashtag those, you'll find me. It's more important to find the community and not me. So that's what I want to give you. #WOC diabetes on Twitter and Instagram, and #DSMA, and then diabetes social media advocacy for the Twitter chats.
Yes. Love it. Thank you so much. Virtual hugs. You enjoy the rest of your day.
Will do. You too.
And we'll be in touch.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.